the Lumad future, the Lumad identity, and struggles. Last November 25, 2015, an interesting article was published by the Philippine Daily Inquirer about the gathering of about 8,000 indigenous leaders of Mindanao in a hotel Davao City sponsored by NCIP, which is National Commission of Indigenous Peoples. The 3 days assembly seemed to be a single agenda and purpose, that is to present a government counterfoil to the successful campaign of cost-oriented groups against the displacement and killings which have victimized Lumad communities and their leaders in Mindanao. It is a move that is revealing of government's attitude and decision towards fate of human rights violation against indigenous communities in Mindanao. Instead of being at the forefront of protecting indigenous groups against the terror of paramilitary forces, the NCIP reveals its true colors as a diverse state instrument that strokes the fires of conflict by actually pitting indigenous groups against one another. The Lumad term, even though the term provenance may have come from assigned settlers, has come to mean so much more for indigenous communities in the course of their decades of struggle to keep them way of life which inextricably linked to their ownership and control over their land and resources. In this sense, indigeneity is not an essential category that refers to unchanging notion of something similar to the idea of noble savage, but rather one that defined by historical circumstances and dialectical struggle as well. At that time, the community was in the midst of bitter struggle of reclaiming their ancestral land from banana plantation firm Apico. It was their attempt to regain their community's economic losses from logging operations in their area, which now they're continuing marginalization under regime of large-scale agriculture operations. It was their economic struggles, however, as a marginalized group driven off and marginalized in their own land that struck me the defining trait of the Lumad existence. They may not have homogeneous set of cultural traits among themselves, but what they share is the same narrative economic displacement as mining firms, large-scale agriculture plantations, and private land owners steal their ancestral land, often with the willing aid of state agencies and armed forces. Primarily, groups recruited and armed by government among the rank of the Lumad people. So what is the threats here? Are their very lives and the march towards state-led developmental aggression continue? So these are the picture, an example of ikat textile. So this is inspired by beaded pillowcase at the Davao Museum by Carl Castor. A Lumad boy doing beadwork of a UCCP Haran evacuation center. So this is an example of a beadwork that Lumad boy doing the beadwork at the UCCP Caravan Evacuation Center. This picture represents the spread and represent a Lumad community in the middle of the political discussion, which is a UCCP Haran Evacuation Center.
In 1986, the indigenous tribes of Mindanao adopted the term Lumad as a collective identity of Mindanao's non-Moro indigenous people and have shared their history of marginalization and struggle against the state and private interests, including the land grabbing, disposition of ancestral lands, human rights violation, militarization, killings, harassment, limited access to education. So, over the decades, the indigenous people joined rebels by force. It is because this possesses them of their ancestral lands so that they can accumulate profit from their own resources. So, despite of the many challenges, struggles that they encounter and endured, many of them remain steadfast in protecting their communities, whereas others slowly become assimilated in a mainstream culture, even their traditional way of living is affected and changed. The Lumad identity and struggle is not just about cultural rights, it's about self-determination and regaining ancestral domain.
The Lumad struggle. The term Lumad was adopted in 1986 by Mindanao indigenous people to unite their identity. For decades, they faced land grabbing, state violence, and marginalization due to mining and military operation. Some leaders were corrupted, but many arrested. To protect their land and culture, their struggle gained national attention in 2015 through school closures, killings, and protests. Like Manalik Bayan, the Lumad fight is not just cultural. It is a political and class-based struggle for self-determination and ancestral lands rights, reflecting the borders inequality in Philippine society.
A new formulation. So in a new formulation, from October 12 to October 28, 2016, indigenous people from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, including Lumad, Moro, Aitas, Igorot, Mangyan, Ati, and Tumandok, participated in Lakbayan 2016, uniting under the Sandugo Alliance. So, in this alliance, highlight the shared struggle of these groups against historical and structural marginalization, including land encroachment by grand interests with the complicity of the Philippine state. It's also the event marked a shift from focusing on the unique struggle of individual groups to recognizing their shared experience of oppression and the need for a collective action towards self-determination. It also, the Sandugo Alliance represents a powerful model of resistance against imperialism and ongoing exploitation. And it also, the alliance aims to promote self-determination and resist imperialism with lessons to be learned from their experience. And lastly, the Sandugo Alliance makes an important moment in the history of social movements in the Philippines, highlighting the need for collective action and solidarity among national minority groups. That's all. Thank you.